With the new patch, the meta is heavily centered towards reroll, and sometimes when having a potential for a strong AP opener, you might find the other lines already cut off. This is where the Veigar comp is going to shine, as we are playing around uncontested Veigar and Poppy, and hopefully also able to pick up that Lissandra 3. You capitalizing on the fact that tested lobby is going to be rerolling to make our rolls efficient, and then outcap them with strong item and combat augments. Our game plan is going to be ideally playing from around a Meeple or a Replicator opener if you do not have Meeple in, carry Lissandra 2 over Veigar 2, and we're going to be slamming items for our tempo. Once we make it to level 4, we are loading down to about 40 or 33 gold to upgrade our board and keep on pace with the rest of the lobby's tempo, as we are ideally playing with other recall rerollers, especially one cost rerollers in the lobby. On level 5, we are fine to flex our slot. I would ideally prefer a Bastion, for as Poppy is going to be our main tank, Mordekaiser 2 over Ilaoi 1, and then as we level to level 6 and level 7, we are slotting in these two units in the same order of prio. On level 8 we are rolling down for Rammus 2. Rammus 2 is going to be a stronger tank than Poppy 2, and hopefully we're able to find a lucky bard, if not simply play 5 Corki for 5 Meeple, as Rammus greatly scales with Meeple, so and so does Veigar. On level 9 we either add another Voyager, a Rast, or we can add another flex 5 cost such as Morgana or Shen. I would prefer a Voyager for those extra shields, while Rast is also a generically nice option. If we are able to find a Bard 2, then we are fine to transition the Lissandra items on him, and regarding itemization, Veigar is going to love the Jeweled Gauntlet plus double Nashor's combo if you're unable to secure a second Nashor's or need those extra bells for some form of frontline items. Shojin is going to be fine, Giant Slayer seems to be quite good, say so the Strikers or Death Cap. Lissandra is going to be holding our utility, that's going to be transitioning ideally to the Bard, Void Staff and Morello, then just having some mana item, Shojin or Adaptive Helm. And if we can finish that off with any form of an AP item, Jeweled Gauntlet being better than the rest of them. For our tanks, since we are running Bastions, they love a little bit of an extra form of shielding or effective health through other means. Warmogs, Crown Guards, Protector's Vow, Steadfast are great to synergize with the resistances we already get. Otherwise, we can find to be putting on that Sunfire there as well, or having Visage. And another thing to note is that Rammus has that armor scaling built into him, so Bramble Vest is also nice if the lobby is quite heavy on the AD side. For artifacts, the best artifact in the comp is going to be Soraka's Miracle, as that's going to provide the extra sustain your Veigar is going to need in the late game to chew through these boards, and is greatly stronger than the rest. However, the other ones to note would be Dawncore, enabling Veigar to spam cast a little bit more. Ares is generally decent, AP one, and the one that should work by design but is not currently reflected in the stats is Ludens. I've mentioned it here as the Veigar is going to be having potential for the overkill, but currently seems to be just on the weaker side as a standalone artifact. Radiant items, we have hard time securing them, but if we are able to pick up one that's going to be Nashor's or a Jeweled Gauntlet, or just having the Warmogs or other form of a tank item is going to be decent. Strong augments that we are looking for are ideally, firstly, the item augments. We want to be having those item spikes and item quality so that we are able to be stronger than the other rerollers in the lobby. And since we are playing in uncontested units generally, we should be able to have our rolls be more efficient and hit without the necessity to pick up a econ augment. But if we find that we are in a position to do so, obviously make sure you do, as you do not want to be falling behind on tempo with this comp too much. Other strong combat augment to note would be Charge Transfer. Since Veigar could have potential for the overkill, it's going to be quite nice right there. Otherwise, reroll enabling augments such as Treasure Hunt are also quite decent. On the emblems front, the emblems are not something that I would be particularly angling on this comp, but if we do get them from other memes like an orb or a Treasure Hunt proc, Meeple emblem is going to enable us to have a flex slot on level 8, hopefully able us to push a tempo to make it to the secured Bard. Do not play 7 Meeple unless you are able to go for Rammus 3. That's simply not that strong. Voyager is simply a nice +1 providing the shield, able to buff up our units. Bastion enables us to be playing with 4 Bastion on level 9, and similar goes for Vanguard. And Darkstar emblem enables us to be playing around the Karma and for Darkstar on level 9. It's going to provide us a little bit of an extra stats on our team. For the Gods, Varus is amazing always for these reroll comps. Kale to get those items all sorted out, and we are fine to be now with the Blessing Change picking up even more item augments with her, since we are able to overwhelm our opponents then through double frontline, itemized frontline. Yasuo for the hexes is obviously quite neat, can sort out that anti-heal for you as well. and Echo for generic anomaly still does decent as a tank item. As usual, this cheat sheet is going to be available in the link down below. I've also updated the link for the meta read sheet, as I realized that working with copies could be quite cumbersome on your side. And the first read on the new meta is right there, going to be working on the B patch read and filling out all the emblem directions, artifact directions, and continuously keeping update with the meta tier list right there, so pick it up. And now let's jump in a VOD review. For our VOD review, we are jumping in game with Wasian Iverson, starting out here on 1-3 as he was checking the stats on the meta up to this point. We are starting out with a Poppy 2 already, have that Veigar and Lissandra to be going together with that. Holding onto a single Akali as a potential to be playing, but now we can see we scouted the lobby, we can see that there's already a lot of players angling that 1-cost reroll. There's the Teemos, the possible for Stargazers right there. And on our augment selection right now, we are evaluating our components. We have what seems to be most likely a Spear of Shojin Slam. Now, Calculated Loss is a prime econ option that we could be considering, but I do not think there's that many AP reroll lines that we could be considering from the Calc Loss, as we would want to at least 8 loss streak with this. Legion of Trees, the emblems did get nerfed, and with why it would provide us a direction, we are kind of leaning into an AP direction. We have a decent opener that we could perhaps tempo into it, while as Woven Magic wins, we have that mana generating item, could potentially allow us to push for more item tempo, and is quite good if we are locking in that Veigar comp from this kind of a spot. All options I would say are decent. In the default case, Calculated Loss or Legion Trees, I would be something that I would be angling, but as we can see, there's already a player also calling out Cho'Gath reroll, TF reroll. Trade Sector is a great econ option for those reroll comps, but for our case we want to be capitalizing, bridging the gap between some of the other comps with extra items, and then when they hit, being able to overcome them through the item quality and numbers. Also to note, Trade Sector is generally better for those level 6 reroll comps, as you're able to stack up some of the econ and then send it with those free rerolls. Oh, and this is the, okay, we had to know, this is the encounter where we get 8 free rerolls on 2-1 already, and this is why there's probably going to be pretty much all the cases of people playing that, playing around the 1-cost rerollers, as we can see already, sending it on 2-1 to gain the maximum board strength, able to pick up 3 meeple, able to pick up our upgrades, and since we do not have meeple in yet, we are going to be slotting those items on Lissandra, and it's nice that we get a glove, so we're in the perfect spot to have the crit sorted out already as well. Other case, how you could be approaching this is if you are in more an uncontested spot, and you could be sending your rerolls for those 1-cost rerolls here on 2-2. If you're able to make 10 on the first turn, that's going to be particularly strong. However, you might be giving up on the opportunity to be going for that win streak. Since we saw that we have 2 item slams, we want to see if we have possibility to go on a 5 streak that is going to give us a lot of econ. And the reason why we're obviously rolling on level 4-3 is that that's the greatest time to get those to get both the tempo and the 1 costs due to the odds. You can see the Crown of Demacia Cho'Gath right there. That's also going to be a menace, a comp that is flying extremely strong in the current meta with the timebreaker changes as well. Now let's see how we fare against him. We have gotten the 3 meeple and could have considered transitioning the items to the Veigar here as well if we wanted to, but we're able to take down the Cho'Gath, and we are quite good in this spot. I believe that Veigar is a little bit better at being able to deal with these single target tanks due to having the innate nuke. For our gods, we are running an Attrition and Ari game, and I would be angling probably here the bow with the free rerolls, getting a little bit of an extra econ, since we're going to be able to now prioritize focusing on item and combat augments. Getting free econ from our god is nice, and we have, at least we can use 3 bows in this comp, as we want the voice stuff sorted out, and we want those Nashor's Tooths. And even red buff is not the worst thing you can be making here. And just going to be picking up any form of a 1 cost here, not going to matter for ourselves, as we do not see anything fit for our line. Going to be making 20 here and sitting, hopefully able to go on a 5 streak. We see that there is a 1 open player in our pool. Hopefully that's Precedent right there. Should be able to pick up a free win if we go there, but we do not want to be leveling, as we do want to be staying on these level 4 odds, going to Econa probably, and then send these extra free rerolls that we have managed to gain in a too tanky comp. It's interesting to see what they're going to be playing this with. Generally, obviously, the Samira line that we would see, but they have leveled and they have quite a lot of value. This too tanky, providing the extra HP in the early game, is very efficient when the boards generally have less of a damage on them. So unfortunately, our 3 gets snapped. But still, we should be in a decent position. Our econ is obviously a little bit on the lower side since we invested so much into these units, but it should still be completely fine. We see that there seems to be an Urgot player as well in the lobby, so we can very much see how heavy the reroll of the meta is. And in this encounter, there's going to be so many players fighting for those 1 cost. This is where this comp can exactly shine, as the Poppy and the Veigar are generally going to be uncontested. But it seems that his read is that he might be considering Lissandra to be a stronger item holder than the Veigar, even with 3 Meeple in. We'll have to see if we ever decide to do this swap. We can see he's constantly checking the abilities, trying to figure out what is going to be the stronger option right now. Now, we do get dropped a full Nashers as well, which is extremely nice for ourselves, going to synergize with the Jewel Gauntlet we have. And we have another Nashers as well, right? We have 2 Nashers coming in. Fortunately, no attack items, but we're going to be sending now here on level 4. Going to be able to pick up this Mordekaiser pillar to hold on most likely. Now we're going to be transitioning the items to the Veigar, getting the 3-item Veigar on and losing the Spear Shojin onto the Lissandra. Quite a decent spot, as we have 6 copies of each of our 1 costs, able to undercut some of the other Teemo players which might be considering holding on to Lissandra. Obviously the correct play to that comp is quite a lot of times to not be going for that extra Lissandra 3 unless it comes free and does not lock your bench slots, as you want to be having more frontline through double tank in the Nasus and Leona. Next augment selection, obviously immediately rerolling there the restart mission. Our comp is locked in, we do not need this. This is prime if your board is extremely cheap and you're on a lost streak, able to spike from that. The tower could be an interesting option, sorting our potential frontline options right now. Lack of frontline items, but so does Exiles. We would have to see how we are able to position our Exiles. The thing to note about Exiles is that Poppy does give adjacent units magic resist and armor, and the pathing with Exiles could be a little bit weird in that form of the way it works out. But let's see if he prefers. Exile Tower has been considered extremely strong. Augmented power, we want to be spiking on this stage. That's not going to be exactly what we're looking for. And healing orbs could help us with a little bit of frontline sustain, but Exiles, I believe, is going to be stronger in that front. We have those, we have the armor and magic resist from our bastions, and we're going to be having the extra shields on the vanguards. It's simply nice that they both can utilize the Exile shield right there. Have an option to be holding on to 5 copies of Mepsi, but I believe that is simply going to be too expensive at this stage for ourselves. Going to be slotting in that Mordekaiser, as we did not opt to hold on to any bastions just yet. Providing the Darkstar buff is also quite neat, as can bridge the threshold of being able to execute damage, and also synergizes with the possibility that Lissandra or some other form of damage is able to clean up the units before Veigar is completely over killing them. Able to find an extremely early Veigar 3, this we can see the G2 double there, hitting the 3F3. Sometimes you might be able to hit this very early on when there are going to be so many 3-1 cost rerollers around. That's why not taking econ augments if you are in a spot to do so is quite great, and Ari obviously is one of the gods that can enable that for you. Same can be said for something like Avarus, where you can just able to cheese out the extra with the dupes. And we are in the prime tempo spot right now, so we can even be holding on for these other 1-cost rerollers that who are under more pressure to be spiking, to have to send it a little bit lower on their econ goal caps and take it from there. Now, we would be ideally looking to be trying to sort out some of our frontline items right now. Now, Rod is obviously an option that we would want for potential for that damage backline, but Glove can be flexible in more senses. We can make that steadfast. And the 3 gold is appealing. I'm not exactly sure how to evaluate a single gold per turn, but if we are going to be locking that in, we want to be aligning ourselves with the RE still, since Thresh Blessing is not the greatest one to be ending up on. But it has a high potential for a high cap, so let's see how Asian approaches this decision. 1 gold per turn is going to be quite good, as it seems that is going to lock us that we are probably not going to be looking for any form of an econ augment when we are going up on our last selection. Able to pick up that Mordekaiser too. Going to be rolling a little bit here, but since we have that Mordekaiser, finding that Poppy 3, now we are on the interesting decision of we are at 6 Lissandras, and let's see if he evaluates to be going for that Lissandra tree from this kind of a position. Going to be pushing levels, it seems, right in here, wanting to continue that streak. We are on potential to end up on a 5 streak, which would be great, as we have hit before these other rerollers. The Fizz does get to our backline, is able to execute, and this fortunately breaks our streak right there. Able to find that Void Staff from the extra component. And it's, yeah, I think this is the nice thing with the Exiles, with the Briar. You can simply be still putting her on here. It doesn't only work with summons like Azir Soldiers from last set. Let's just make a quick note that this is for sure work like this. And yes, we do gain our shield, so we are fine to be putting him the summon in the front. Well, there seems to be a Zoe reroll going up from right there. Probably wanted to be playing for a potential Teemo, but has ended up already on 7 Zoe, so this might turn into a Zoe reroll. Has Nasus 3 on the bench, which is also an interesting possibility right there. Now we are at 7 Lissandras, and we see that they have hit the Zoe 3 right there. In great need of some final frontline items. Now, ideally, thankfully, we have that Exiles to be making up a little bit of that gap. Do get double chain and a belt. This is going to be nice. This is one thing you do have to watch out for. Now, we probably want to slam that Morello or Sunfire. Yeah, this is going to be a neater item completion of our items. Having that Crown Guard and Sunfire right there sorted out. Crown Guard is very strong actually in this current meta. Going to be pushing levels instead of it. These Lissandra copies are just coming for free since so many one-costs have been pulled out. Putting in that Voyager, even getting more shield on our team. Trying to push the tempo, right? We're capitalizing on the fact that we were managed to hit early of those outcontested units and we're able to push ahead of tempo for the rest of the lobby. On our last selection right here, we have two item units on our board, and this is when you're going to be some of the strongest, so we're probably looking for another item augment right now. Apathetic Forge here could be gamble, but we have at least a couple of hits, and if we're able to hit that Soraka's Miracle, that is the prime hit. Gilded Steel is not going to really have value for ourselves until we either make it to that Bard or level 9 Shoot Lotus. We already have the GG slammed. It's going to have a little bit of less of a value. Items are going to make our units just that much stronger right now. And we already have a generic combat augment. Heroic Grab Bag is not something we're looking for. 2 components here could be appealing. Gain a little bit of gold. This has higher upside if we are willing to gamble. And let's see if Wasian Iverson is going to be a gambling man this game. And it seems so he is, and we find that Soraka's Miracle, so that's a prime thing that we can be slotting in right now immediately. Now this is a point where we could potentially consider Slight Roll if we wanted to secure that Ilaoi 2 and potential for hitting that Lissandra T. Would be generally more worthwhile if we had continued our win streak right there, as that would allow us to continue, and obviously gauging the matchups if we are in a necessity to do so. Into a TF reroll here, but this Poppy now with the third item is able to sustain, and we're able to take them down. We can see this is how we have bridged the gap between some of the top tier comps in the meta, simply having the item augments, having the combat augments, and capitalizing on it. These units are not that they are still powerful, right? The Veigar has been known to be quite decent of a unit, and definitely in these earlier stages of the game when the boards have less units on them. Into the Primordial reroll right now, and the Poppy will have to do the heavy holding right there. They're unfortunately able to burst through ourselves, as they have also hit pretty much the rest of their board, have a little bit more on them, and have the item augments on their front as well. So our streak is going to get broken right now. Our open component at the moment is this cloak right here, so let's keep a note of that. We could be completing 10 gold is probably quite appealing up front. This on average should be a little bit more gold, but it should be about the same gold actually, but we do not really have the use for the sword, and the tier we can immediately make that adaptive helm for our Lissandra right there, so probably be going siding with the Ahri right now. Otherwise Treshon could be on average just slightly a little bit more gold, since we have the bounce between 3 and 18. That would be about 10.5 gold, so pretty much equal, and we had the upside if more people picked Ahri to gain even more gold, so we went with that. Trying to see how we can be capping and leveling aggressively here on 8, finding that Rammus right there, finding that Corki, able to get that 5 meeple in right away, slamming adaptive helm into our gut reroll that has managed to hit their Aurora, but they do not have exactly that juice in them to have those Ahri kind of artifacts, so we are able to just sustain their damage. The Zergot has not managed to nuke through ourselves, and we are picking up a win. Going to be rolling aggressively here, able to find the Corki 2 and the Lysandra 3. Going to be playing around a little bit with our positioning, finding that this should be quite neat. Having that Poppy in the middle is going to be protecting all of the sides for ourselves. This is the thing you have to watch out when playing Exiles, with the potential of being wrapped, generally against the melee comps. But having your tank in the middle should, in most cases, guarantee a possibility for them to stall long enough. Then you just have to make sure that there is not very much concentrated power. Sometimes like the Primordial comp right there, if they had a lot of their concentrated power on this side, they would have the potential to wrap through this side. Therefore, you wanted to return to the positioning where we had before, where we had our units, 3 units in the middle right there. Able to pick up. He just seemed to be going for whatever boon we had been offered before, valuing the extra potential for the gold. I assume, so we're in a position where we had to reforge, or perhaps he just simply misclicked positioning in a way so that our 3 meeple units right here are able to get the buffs. Rolling, finding that Rammus too, so going to be transitioning items right there. And yeah, this is going to be nice for ourselves. The Rammus too is just going to be a little bit of a stronger of a tank, especially if we have some kind of armor items on him as he scales from armor. And with 5 meeple, he is quite strong. You want to be running 5 meeple for that purpose, and the Bard is even providing him even more as he's scaling with meeple. Did get adjusted a couple of patches ago a little bit, but is still very strong. And we are in a prime position. Since we were able to cruise from that tempo and the early hits, we are in a very good spot to be securing ourselves a very good placement. I would gauge already a top 3 from this kind of a spot into this Timo reroll. So let's see how they fare. They also have the Sorakas Miliker on their side, but we have a 2-star forecast, which in general, obviously 12 gold should be stronger than 9 gold, and is able to fully just tank through this. Timo's damage is just able to ramp through, and we can see the Veigar is able, through the sustain that we have provided for ourselves, cut through the rest of their board. The only other thing that I would note about this positioning, since this is going to be a tricky thing to note when we are playing, is that this Bard, we want him to provide those meeple buffs, but now our voice staff is a little bit far from our main carry. Let's see how we fare against the Surgot comp right now. He has managed to get close to our backline, thankfully retargets on our Rammus that another Sorakas Miliker procs, and that is enough for him to sustain, and we're able to pick up a win against the Prestevent. And now we are in an extremely comfortable spot. Could be considering maybe improving our backline item quality, moving that adaptive helm to the front line for something else. Instead going to be didn't see that, and going to be going with another Crown Guard for our Poppy right there. Double frontline should be good. This is how these 1-cost units are balanced, right? They are sending a single targeted nukes, or well, the replicator we have double targets, but they are balanced through the fact that there's going to be more units on the board and they're going to need time to be cutting through these boards. But if we have a lot of frontline, we're able to be quite fine. Holding onto that Rast here, but most likely going to be slotting in could be a Karma, more than likely on our level 9, or just an Aura 5 cost. Let's see how we approach that. Have secured ourselves a top 4 as well, and then again into this Timo reroll. They are on the last fumes, and they also have the 2 item augments and a combat augment. So this is not like they are not having paid with any form of a econ option, and we are simply just able to get through them. We have the sustain on our side through the exiles, nicely providing those extra shields for ourselves, as we do not have a Voyager in just yet. And just simply cruising out the masterclass from Wasian that it is on 82 HP. This is now probably his game to lose, as it does not seem that there's going to be that high of a cap on from other players, as we already were able to get through the Urgot player right there. Able to find the Jewel Gauntlet, which is going to be a nicer option. So, okay, we are going to be transitioning instead the Void Staff to the board, going to be work nicely with our positioning. Getting the swap in the last second for this Rammus to be on the Urgot side. This is nice that we're able to sustain it, but he does get on our backline, and thankfully does not retarget on our Veigar, which is the prime carry that we have, and this is going to be enough. Very close fight, and we're able to just beat it out, even when they got almost the perfect wrap on ourselves. Still, with the correct positioning, we're able to picking up that win. See that now there's a Primordial player, which is again another case that we have to be careful with our positioning so that they do not do the wrap. It's checking for the last second with the hover scout to make sure that they are not doing any shenanigans, and able to get our tanks right in front of them. So hopefully this is going to be enough of a stall So let's see which your board is able to stats check which. Our Ramos is through, our Poppy is through, but we have managed to simply have enough time for the Veigar to be able to slowly bring their units down and to capitalize on that. So at this point we are on level 9, he's even considering pushing a level 10 from this kind of a spot. We do not really have that much to roll for. Obviously we could be rolling for that Bard 2 or other unit that we've sound, but I guess we could be considering also capping around our 4 Darkstar with a Karma and a Jin. Now this will, unfortunately we did get swapped on with the Surgot, and he got to the backline and taking us out. So let's see how we fare against them. I think going for our last item, going to be going with an item anvil again, finding a Jin pair. Let's see how we're going to be capping, passing up on the Voyager right there. So now we find that Karma, going to be going for the 4 Darkstar with the Karma and the Jin. Nicely positioning. Keep a note of this is one of the positioning ways how you can be positioning when you have 10 units and exiles right now. And let's see, now we are our tanks are on their weak side, so this might be a little bit of a tougher matchup. But thankfully the Belvet gets stuck on the Ramos and we're able to pick up the win. Very well played game by Wasian Iverson overall. We found the open line. Obviously the encounter incentivizes everyone to reroll, so once the units get pulled out, our rolls just become so much more efficient. So we tried to push the early tempo early on, engage to secure, then able to hit due to the other units being pulled out, and simply pushing levels, finding optimal way to cap out our board and secure a first place, since the lobby did not have the highest of the caps due to so many rerolls, taking out rest of the players who could be potentiating for those fast 9 super high cap fast 8 boards. I would like to thank you for watching. I hope that you learned something new. All the cheat sheets and the meta sheet are available in the link down below, and I wish to see you in the next one. Have a good one.